It's time for Focus Forward, sponsored by Invest Grand Bahama. It's Grand Bahama's best talk show, highlighting all of the positive things happening in Freeport.
Look forward to our special guests each week that will tell you about events, activities, and initiatives that are making a remarkable impact on our community.
You'll also hear from local business owners and get a heads up on deals and special promotions. It's time to Focus Forward.
Hi guys, and welcome back to another episode of Grand Bahama's Best Talk Show, Focus Forward. We are so delighted to be here with you today. My name is Glendia, Manager of Quality Assurance and Special Projects at the Grand Bahama Port Authority, and I am joined by Alex Thompson. I bet she's leaning in. I could feel her leaning in, wanting to know what am I going to call her today, because she is different each and every day, believe it or not. Alex Thompson, she is the Director of Public Relations at the Downtown Freeport Business Association in downtown Freeport. She's Miss Downtown today. Are you Miss Downtown?
I am Miss Downtown. Every day, every day. Did you forget to mention we are the best association in Grand Bahama?
Okay, I mean, let's be fair to all of the others. I believe that's a little subjective, but it's okay. It's okay.
I can do that, though.
Yes, you can.
I can
You
do
can.
that. you know.
She is entitled to do that. No
I
problem.
am. I'm entitled to that. That's the hat I'm wearing today and every day.
Yes.
It's downtown.
Downtown.
Okay.
All right. But we're going to be
Public
talking about
relations.
some serious business
Serious
that
business.
also involves downtown, the city of Freeport, and with all of our guests today, the island of Grand Bahama. And so we're very delighted to bring to you our Hurricane Preparedness show as we are beginning to enter the season in just a few
Already.
short days. And we want to ensure that we have a lot of key partners around the table to be able to share with you some of the work that they've been doing to ensure that our city and our island is
right.
prepared. So this particular show is one that is always very informative.
That's the plan. To
Yeah.
be informative, to make our
Right.
listeners and our viewers aware of what they should also be aware of leading into the hurricane season and be proactive.
Absolutely, absolutely. So a lot of good key information coming out today. We want to thank our sponsors, Invest Grand Bahama, of course, that allows us to be here each and every time, Grand Bahama Port Authority, Creative Eyes Studio, and Visible Changes. We appreciate you guys. Thank you so very much. And of course, we invite you to continue to watch and listen on the Invest Grand Bahama Facebook page, Grand Bahama Port Authority page, and of course, you can watch us on ZNS, Our TV, ILTV, Dove, and the Rhythm.
Okay, so we're
Can
everywhere.
listen in.
Can I just plug that I really appreciate the Invest Grand Bahama Small Business Bureau for sponsoring us and the Grand Bahama Port Authority as I shamelessly try to get our show extended for more than an hour.
Okay, so I was waiting on, what was going to happen just now, because you've never done that before, but we do appreciate them. And of course, an hour is a whole lot, Alex.
It goes by so fast.
It does.
After the show, everyone's stopping me on the side of the street. Oh, can we hear more about this? Can you bring this person back on the show?
So tell them
We
tune
need
in
more
next time.
Oh, okay.
And tune in again.
And again.
Yes.
And
And again.
watch the replay.
And again.
Listen to it on the radio.
Yes.
And go on YouTube.
Yes.
Okay, then, so there we have it. Even though I really love the Invest Grand Bahama Small Business Bureau for their sponsorship of Focus Forward every week for the Grand Bahama community and the nation at large.
Right. Thank you, Alex. So if we can just get on into our segment, we want to start talking about hurricane preparedness, hurricane readiness, and to ensure that if you guys are watching, this is the time for you to take your notes. Start to put down some things that you might need to know, maybe some contact numbers they may share, email addresses, websites, anything where you can go to get additional information throughout the season. And so it is my pleasure to welcome back to the show. We have this guy every time we talk about city management,
We need him.
building and development services and things that are happening around the city, the Deputy Director of Building and Development Services and the City Manager, Mr. Troy McIntosh. Welcome back.
Thank you so much. Good morning, Freeport. Good morning, Bahamas.
So we're talking about
Good.
hurricane. I won't put a lot of pressure on you otherwise today.
You put pressure on everybody, but today is one of those shows where we really got to get all of it out. And we also want to welcome back to the show again. This lady was with us at Lucaya Solar Power,
Yes.
live on location several weeks ago when that commissioning would have happened. So we're very pleased to have on our Hurricane Preparedness show Mrs. Nikita Mullings, who is the Chief Operating Officer at the Grand Bahama Power Company. Welcome again.
Good morning. It's a pleasure to be here.
Good to have you. Good to have you.
Nikita. Got questions.
I've got answers.
Let's hope so. You got about broad shoulders to deal with me this morning.
And also, we want to welcome for the very first time to the Focus Forward Roundtable the chief, the manager of operations for the Grand Bahama Utility Company, Mr. Leon Cooper. Welcome to Focus Forward.
Good morning, Grand Bahama. Thanks for having me.
Good. It's wonderful to have you. So let's get into the discussion, guys. Let's talk a little bit about what's happening here within the city of Freeport and how all of these organizations are now preparing to ensure that we can get through this particular season with your services intact as much as possible. And so if we can start, Mr. McIntosh, with you and city management.
Yes.
Obviously, your role is very broad and wide in terms of the things that needs to happen, but give us a brief overview of your responsibility and tell us a little bit about what you've been doing.
Yes, and so one of the first thing I want to mention to residents on the Grand Bahama Island, or particularly in the Freeport area. If for the first time you're hearing about this, we are disappointed, but nevertheless, there's still an opportunity for you to download the Freeport Report app. If you have never heard of it, if you don't have it, please download that app, because we're going to use that to push a lot of information to you, pre-storm as well as during the storm. And so the responsibility that I have pre-storm as well as during the storm is to ensure that first and foremost the roads are cleared through our service provider, and to ensure that all of our first responders from the building development side and our main key points, the airport, the hospital, the harbor, are in good standings, at least get back to a sense of recovery. And so we have teams that are responsible for key areas, subdivisions, and pairs. We also have new apps that we've used. Past experience would allow us to collaborate with the power company, where we have their distribution system to ensure that it's overlaid, and we can, after inspection, we can respond quickly, and they can respond quickly to ensure that power restorations to the various customers are done efficiently and in a seamless manner from our perspective, and as well as from theirs. We look at regular maintenance during the year and during regular period for the island and for the city per se, to make sure they're in an order. But we want to encourage persons who have not yet prepared, not to wait for a system or an alert, but to begin to prepare their environments to make sure it's safe moving forward.
So when we, for example, go through a storm, when is it that your team comes into play with all of this work?
So once we get the all clear from NEMA and it's safe for the regular inspection team to go out, we then basically contact those team members and get them out as quickly as possible to assess and to do an assessment of every single infrastructure within the city of our responsibility. And that information, in some cases, depending on Wi-Fi, it's uploaded while they're in the field. So there's no downtime. So we have a team back in our command center receiving that data to be able to quickly as possible send it to the power company or the relevant utility provider.
So it is
That's
really
two questions
important.
more for him when you finish that.
No problem. I just wanted to touch on something because when after you go through a storm, everybody wants to get out on the road. They want to go, they want to see, they want to drive. So that's not necessarily the best thing to do, because there's a significant amount of work that needs to happen with these teams, all of these teams, in order for persons to be able to safely traverse and move around, that sort of thing.
Yes, absolutely. So we are advising persons, and I'm sure Nikita will mention it as well. We have Bahamians want to be, curious in that time. That's not the time to be curious. But to allow the first responders to do their jobs, to make sure the way is clear, and that all utility providers or responders can get out and make the way clear and safe for other service providers to come out and, start restorations if that's the case.
So basically, stay in until the all clear is given.
Stay in until some form of communication from NEMA was given that is safe for the public to begin to traverse out on the streets, meaning onlookers. Yes.
All right, so I have two questions
Yes.
I wanted to ask you specifically. You talked about the Freeport Report app. I guess people would want to know what exactly can they report on that app?
Anything.
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 Be specific.
So, for example, during a hurricane, if there's down trees, if there's down power lines, if there's water interruption, the system is then transformed for you to be able to do that.
Okay, so absolutely anything.
Anything. And we're looking at all areas, not just Freeport proper, but all areas.
I think that's
within
important
the
for.
Port Authority.
I asked you that question because I want the listeners and the viewers to understand that it doesn't matter what it is, where it is. If you see something, report it.
If you see something, say something.
See something, say something, and because you can't address it and you can't be everywhere with your team. The next question I have, make sure, I was listening to your list of key areas, right? I didn't quite hear downtown, but I had to make sure you were on that list. But I have a question. What are you doing now to, I wrote this down for me, to mitigate any flooding and protect critical infrastructure if a system was to happen this year?
Yeah, so the key thing with that is to remember all of our drainage system have a capacity, okay? So a drain holds 1,600 gallons of water. If you do have a system where it occurs during high tide or there's unusual high tide, it's raining particularly, those drains will have a capacity. The key is once the rain stops, within 24 to 48 hours, that water should not be in that location. If it is, then there's a problem. That is what we need to be notified of. And once you tell us, we'll make an assessment of that and then carry out whatever maintenance work is needed thereafter, once we're able to.
So if we're talking about drains, sorry, Alex, because there's so much, this needs to be a 2-hour show today. But if we're talking about drains, right, there are some drains that fall on private property.
Yes. Right.
How does that work? Is the Port Authority responsible for the drainage on private property as well?
No. And so, no, we don't. We're not responsible. So we're asking those persons, commercial building owners, if you have drainage system, it's very, very important to have those drains assessed for maintenance. Now, some persons have seen it, but I can speak to what we have experienced here in the Port Authority. I've seen persons blow wells with compressors. The topology here on the island of Freeport lends itself to a point where if the well is not encased with a pipe and you go and you have someone blow that with a compressor, there's a tendency that that well will collapse at the bottom without you even knowing, which means you're reducing the capacity of that well. So instead of maybe holding 1,600 gallons, which is a tremendous amount, it may be half the capacity. So we're saying to persons to look at your methodology in terms of maintenance and determine whether or not you've reduced the capacity because the well has collapsed. And if that's the case, you may want to have someone go in there to re-drill that. The second thing you want to be aware of, when someone go in to re-drill a well, make sure if the well capacity or the depth of the well is 150 feet, ask the vendor or the licensee, make sure they're a Port Authority licensee, to go 152 feet. So what that does is allow the vendor or licensee to cut new earth, because once he pull out his auger, it's going to clean the well out. If he only goes 150, you have a lot of mud inside that well, that mud is going to fall right back in. But the new earth is going to allow the licensee to clean out not only the walls of it, but also the well itself. So that's important to know as well.
Okay, so essentially private owners have to pay for their own well service.
That's correct, yes.
Okay. All right, so this is great information and definitely a 2-hour show if we had it. But Mr. Mack, if we can, we definitely want to come back to you on one or two things.
Sure, no problem.
And what we cannot come back to you on, we would love to be able to see some of that information on social media.
Sure.
And we'll just connect after the show. But if we can go over to Mrs. Mullings.
Yes, ma'am.
So let's talk a little bit about GB Power. Now, power is typically, well, power and water, very important, but power is typically the first thing people start thinking, when are we going to get our power back?
Yes.
Right? So tell us a little bit about what the Grand Bahama Power Company is doing to prepare for this upcoming season.
So the Grand Bahama Power Company has actually already activated its storm response plan. I think what customers can see and appreciate is the numerous weather systems that we've already been having that allows our employees to kind of stay in a state of readiness. So all of our employees have been aware of their storm rules. We have gray sky and we have blue sky. So gray sky is the roles that some of our employees will take on in the event of a storm. Employees have also been trained. We've activated and conducted simulations of the storm. So what it does is reenact in real time for employees if Storm A was to make landfall, what would you do? How would you respond? Things of that nature.
Okay. So there's a plan in place you've already activated. So they're ready to go.
They're ready to go? Now,
Yes.
how do we know, the public, how do you prioritize who gets energized first after you've done all your checks and you're ready to
Yes.
energize? Troy's looking at me and he's smirking, but
Yes.
I need to know how
That's a
someone
good question.
downtown is going to be up and running.
Yes. So that is a good question, extremely critical. First and foremost, once the storm passes, we conduct, similar to Troy, damage assessment. Based on those damages, we're able to bring that data back to our planning and scheduling team. Our priority of restoration efforts is first and foremost our generation plant. We need them to be able to generate power so it can go out to our transmission and distribution system. That's our second priority. Once we have our T&D assets and our energy facility up and running, we then begin restoring power to our critical feeders. These are areas such as the hospital, the well fields. Customers need
The
water.
hospital is downtown.
Hospital is downtown.
I just want to make sure you remember
Yes,
that.
yes.
You
So
know.
downtown is
We will
included
never
in
forget,
that.
Alex.
We'll never forget downtown. Places like our shelters, places of business establishment, and then we begin to restore our residential customers based on the damage. So you would have heard Troy say we work closely with building and development. It's because those customers that may have substantial damages to their homes, to their residential places, we're not able to restore power to until they get approval and inspection from the building department in the Freeport City area, and in the outskirts, it would be the Ministry of Works.
So thank you so much for bringing that up, because that is also a very important point.
Yes.
And if I can just jump over just for a quick second, Mr. McIntosh. So if I need to do an inspection so that I can get my power, what do I need to provide you or your team to do so?
Very important. And so something we learned from Matthew, particularly as well as Dorian, more than 90% of our residents don't know this particular information, and so we need persons to know this, is their address. Some persons or most persons are familiar with their constituency. They need to know the address, the legal description, which is your house number and your street name. Now, some persons have lot and block, or block and lot. So the first number, if you have two numbers with a dash in between, the first number is your block number, the second number is your lot number. But it's more so critical knowing your street name.
Okay.
So-
So know your street name, which is a part of that legal address.
Yes.
Okay. Got
So
it.
lot and street. I'm not an east. I can't say I'm in an east constituency. I need to say I am located at
No constituencies.
no
Lot
constituency.
block
lot
number A, block B, street name, whatever that is.
Waterfall Drive, whatever that is.
That is
correct.
information.
Okay, now
So you
Nikita-
can get that from conveyances?
You can
Where
get
else
that
can
from
you
your
get that from?
conveyance.
What about a
Service
bill?
forms.
You can probably
Yeah.
you'll probably see that on your power bill or
Okay.
your water bill as well.
We'll be
Okay.
able to find that information there.
That's correct.
Now,
All
Nikita,
right.
before we pop over to Ms. Quinn, one quick question.
Yes.
We talked about when the power is restored.
Yes.
A lot of people always want to know when the power gets cut off. Is there any way that we can prepare for that? Do you guys have pretty much an idea of when do
That
you feel?
shutdown.
Yeah, the shutdown.
Yes.
When do you shut down?
So our past practice before Doreen was we don't execute control shutdowns. One of the things we learned from Doreen was how weather systems can quickly change, different from what was forecasted. So when Doreen was forecasted to make landfall, it came in at a lower category. It stayed stationary. What we learned as a team was we had employees now exposed and trapped into buildings, emergency centers. And so as a team, we would have made a decision to protect our most valuable assets, which is our employees. And so anything higher than a category 3, we will communicate to our customers, provide them sufficient time to do whatever preparations need to be done so we can get our employees out of those work areas into their homes and safe with their families. Because the reality of it is, right, when a storm is passing, there really isn't much we can or cannot do.
Right.
And so it's better for our employees to be home with their families, riding the storm out and then able to respond.
Okay. Good. All right. So thank you so much from Grand Bahama Power Company. Just before we go really quickly,
Yes.
how can persons get information from you before, during, after the storm?
They can follow all of our social media pages. We're visible on Facebook. We're also visible on Instagram. We have pamphlets and flyers that would also be readily available at our headquarters office, and then also our call center, 352-8411.
Okay, thank you very much. 352-8411.
You should know that by heart now.
Definitely, definitely. But with all this good information, I'll just follow on social media because I believe that they have this intact.
Okay,
I
then.
think good to
All
go.
right, all right.
All right, so Mr. Cooper, we just want to come on over to you and talk about the Grand Bahama Utility Company and the work that I believe has been ongoing now, getting ready for the season. Tell us, what have you guys been doing?
Okay, good morning again. One of the first things was just to begin to get our minds right. There's a price for living in paradise. And one of those prices is that from time to time, you will be visited by adverse weather. That's just the reality of where we live. So what we started doing is, first of all, getting our people together and say, hey, in your personal lives, you need to begin to prepare. Because we recognize that the more prepared you are, the more available you are to assist us in your professional life. So we started there. We then began to activate our hurricane preparation plan. It speaks to who's responsible for what, under what conditions one is to report to work, and it outlines a number of things that people are expected to do or not expected to do whenever adverse weather visits our shores.
Okay. So and I think it was touched on a little bit earlier, so we had Matthew, that was a windstorm.
Right.
And then we had Dorian, that was a water storm. So we've experienced both sides of things. And persons are really, really concerned, particularly after a storm, about what they can do with the water, when can they do it, that sort of thing. Can you just give us an understanding of what actually happens when we go through the storm and some of the things that we need to do as tips to prepare for that?
Okay. There are some simple tips. One of the first ones is, and you hear this often, if you can save water in advance of the storm, that's always good. There's things like filling up buckets, clean buckets, your bathtub, and other vessels you may have at your home, if only for hygienic purposes, to be able to ride out the storm. We do our best to make our system as storm hardy as possible, but then there are some things one can never foresee, and there are some realities of life that may cause even the best laid plans not to work out the way you hope that they do. So it may fall on the individual to have some self-reliance, and that's where we say use a little bit of common sense, a little bit of past experience to prepare yourself as best you can, and the people and the things that you love. So we heavily suggest that you have a backup water supply. Consider the amount of persons that may be in the place where you're hunkering down, and for each person we suggest maybe about 4 gallons of water per day for that person. So it means a lot of water. So it means the bathtub, it means buckets, wherever you can store water safely and securely. And I stress securely because you have toddlers or small children wandering around, make sure they don't have access to it. So we want you to be smart about what you do. But small things like that can help you out a whole lot in trying to travel from the time you are about to be impacted by a system to the time that it passes. And like I said earlier, even though we may have the best laid plans, it may not always work out the way we hope or would like. So do the best that you can as individuals. There are things we're doing as an organization. We can talk about some of those things further on.
No, I want to talk about some of those things now.
Sure.
Okay, Alex.
No, because what happened is we all experience, we go through hurricanes. Other than Dorian, I don't recall losing water, the way we did with Dorian. And so I remember rationing my water in my jug to bathe in cool water. And so I want to know, like Nikita had said earlier, what they learned from Dorian. What has the GBUC learned from Dorian? And what can we expect that you are putting in place to prevent damage like we expect? Like you said, we can't predict, but what have you done? What have you put in place? What have you learned that's going to prevent any contamination if we have another major hurricane? Because, viewers want to know, listeners want to know, have you learned? Have you changed some things, and so that we can ensure that we don't have something like what we had with Dorian?
Excellent question. Actually, there's been a lot of resources spent towards storm hardening and to backing up the system. What that typically means is that whenever there is a storm, there may be a power outage. But what we've done, a lot of our assets, that is our pumping stations, our well fields, we've actually gone ahead and installed backup generations. So that in the event, and it does happen from time to time, winds take down a pole, there's no more power being delivered to that area, we can, once we get the all clear, start up those backup generation systems and get those systems back online a lot sooner than perhaps we could have in the past. And so that lessens the angst that the community feels. It's one thing to have gone through a hurricane. It's something else, particularly after the fact, not to be able to have water for hygienic purposes and also for drinking purposes. So we do our best to make sure that those assets are up and running as quickly as possible with those backup generation systems. So those are lessons learned and systems installed over the years as we've gone through successive systems over the years. So there is that element also. In addition to our overall system, there is always testing and evaluation of the water supply before it is given to the public, and there are always notices that go along with it. The water may be available to you, but it may not be available immediately after a hurricane for drinking purposes or for potable purposes, but it may be for hygienic purposes and for some other things you may need to use it for. So we will be advising you, and those advisories will come either through this team or whatever media is available to get that word out to the community, saying that, hey, for a time or until we tell you otherwise, we suggest that you don't use the water for potable purposes, or you may have to boil it or do whatever we suggest that you do, just to make sure that you get the most out of the water that you do get until we can do better. So that's kind of what we've been doing so far.
Okay. So Grand Bahama, that means that the utility company is also ready to be able to share some tips and some additional information with you over time, obviously.
Yeah.
As we go throughout the season, you can expect on the Grand Bahama Port Authority page, Grand Bahama Power Company, Grand Bahama Utility Company, to be sharing information that you need to know. I've also seen some things on ZNS during news time.
Yes.
Right, so that information is also very helpful. So make sure that you're tuning in, that you're watching, you're following, download the Freeport Report app. Please tell city management things that need to be addressed. And it's your opportunity to have a real voice and to get your message out to the right people so that things can be rectified if necessary. So, and also use the app before a storm because the app is functional now, right? So download that and make sure that you are speaking with them, telling them, taking pictures as well so that they will know what's happening. And of course, we want to encourage you as well to look on our web pages. Additional information will be there. Get prepared. Be ready.
Be ready.
That's,
I was gonna say, that's it.
That's the goal.
I think
be
we
ready.
have encouragement and assurance now that the team
Yes.
is ready.
Yes.
The team is looking out for the city is ready, and that does give me a lot of assurance, a lot of comfort in knowing that they're prepared to know we need to do our part and be prepared.
Absolutely. I'm hearing a lot about them just kind of working their incident action plans, getting people ready, securing their people to make sure that they would be ready to come out if something happens. And so thank you guys so much for being with us today. We always appreciate your help. Always good to have you. And of course, the invitation remains open. We want to hear from you again as necessary. Thank you guys so much. So we have more to come. The show just isn't done yet. The Red Cross, Grand Bahama Health Services, and Lucaya Service Company should be coming to talk to us in just a quick minute. And we look forward to having these conversations with them so that you can learn more. So we just want you to stay right there. Stay tuned. We'll be right back right after this.
The Freeport, the reawakened, the reimagined, the rebirth, the Renaissance capital of the Bahamas. Over $1.5 billion in investments. Marinas, cruise ports, downtown revitalization, residential developments. We're putting the city on the map. Want to know more? Just log on. Your future is only a click away.
Our city by reporting non-emergency issues in their neighborhoods, all through the convenience of an easy-to-use and free mobile app. You can instantly report issues from within the GBPA areas, quickly map issues you see on the street, answer a few questions, provide detailed descriptions, photos, and videos right from your device. Whether it's your neighbor or the responsible department within GBPA, those who need to know will receive an instant alert of issues reported. You can also comment on issues, vote them up, and share issues on Facebook and other social media sites to get even more involved. You can report matters such as illegal dumping, unpermitted construction activity, damaged water meters, and a host of other issues that may affect your neighborhood and the city at large. We all want to make our city comfortable and issue-free, and now there's an app just for that. Keeping our city well managed and beautiful just got a little bit easier. All you have to do is see, click, and fix with Freeport Report. Download the Freeport Report app today. Available for free in Google Play and the Apple App Store.
Welcome to Pumpkin Patch. We're located at Brick House Plaza. We've been around for the last 2 to 3 years. We cater to kids age 1 to 5. We have a combination of curriculums that we use here at Pumpkin Patch. ABECA, Montessori, and our very own Ministry of Education. As we know, one curriculum isn't suited for every child, so we combine them to create a curriculum that suits every child's need. We enjoy kids. We have teachers that are the best here in Grand Bahama. We are open all year round for registration. Our telephone number is 602-4442. Please bring all your little pumpkins into a loving, safe environment.
We are back here on Focus Forward, having a wonderful day today, sharing with you lots of information on our hurricane preparedness show, and we would have spoken with the Grand Bahama Port Authority, Building and Development Services Department. We would have also spoken with the Grand Bahama Power Company, so that you can find out exactly what they've been doing to ensure that they can support us if we have a storm, and what they're doing generally. And of course, we had the Grand Bahama Utility Company. They were sharing some tips and information and things that you need to know. So if you did not have an opportunity to see it, rewind, and you'll have an opportunity to take a look. And please share it with others. And while you're doing that, download the Freeport Report app. That is your opportunity to be able to share anything that you see that's happening around the city that you believe that our building and development services and city management departments need to address. All right, so if we can get back into our conversation, Alex.
That's a lot of information. That was quick. But they had to get
We
it
just
quick.
had to get it out there, and
Get
we
it
have
all-
so
get
much
it
more
all out there.
information. So much more information, and we want to give it as much time as possible. And we are very pleased to welcome back to the Focus Forward Roundtable Mr. Corey Cartwright, who is the Assistant Maintenance Manager at Lucaya Service Company. He is the guy that gets all the work done with his team on the ground, and so we're very happy to have you, Mr. Cartwright. Welcome back.
Thank you. You're very modest, Ms. Reading, at the end of the day. But it certainly is a pleasure to be here, to share and to have an opportunity just to give some of the residents a peek at what we do behind the scenes, especially during hurricane preparation.
Okay.
I heard
all
Corey
right.
was a little
So we're
afraid
going
of
to-
being in the hot seat.
He was afraid of being in the hot
Afraid
seat.
to be in the hot seat.
I do not believe that Mr. Cartwright is afraid of being in the hot seat.
not
I do
afraid.
not believe that. I believe he is very prepared, but we'll have the conversation
I
and
have
we'll
questions.
see exactly what happens. So, and if we can also welcome to our roundtable for the first time, and I'm hoping that it is not the last time, Dr. Stacy Bevins-Lang, who is from Grand Bahama Health Services. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Great. So let's get into the conversation. Now, we want to talk about Lucaya. Obviously, within Grand Bahama Island, there's the city of Freeport. Port Authority has a responsibility for a portion of the city of Freeport as it relates to city maintenance and management. And Troy McIntosh and his team would normally address those things. But Lucaya, which is a large portion of the city of Freeport that comes under your preview, Mr. Cartwright, tell us, what is it that your team is doing to help prepare for this upcoming season?
Prayer, plenty prayer.
Okay.
But as for the city ordinance, every year we go through the functions, the functionalities and the preparatory functions in order to get us where we need to be each year. Tree trimmings, drain clearance, ensuring street sides are up. Speaking with some of the residents who may be of a bit of concern for us when it comes to high winds exceeding their limits, and they are just projectiles that are now faced with just flying about the place. We have continued to work with residents who have been impacted since the last storm to ensure that they have what they need as far as getting them back into their homes. Even some of the new building structures that the Building Development Services have put in place, some of our residents have taken advantage of that. Most people have now changed from the wooden structure and sheetrock built to concrete, and that of the stilt foundation instead of just the single floor foundation. We have residents who were not committed but still returned to the Lucaya area, which is a good thing, just showing how important these storms do come. They will cause some kind of devastation, but we are very resilient in what we do, and we're prepared to go forward. We need to continue to be just the players that we are, meaning the leads that we are in the community when it comes to hurricanes. Grand Bahama has always been one of the islands that have been always affected, and we continue to bounce back no matter what we go through.
Okay, I got a question for you.
Sure.
I live in Lucaya. After Dorian, it took me a day to get back to my house because of some flooding. What are you guys doing to mitigate flooding for this hurricane season should we have a storm?
Well, at the end of the day, there's nothing that we can do. Given our archipelago, the approach that the storm decides to take, we cannot mitigate anything against that. Most storms normally travel in a northern direction, and they always come from where? The north part of the island. Right. It's never coming from the south. Had it come from the south, we'd be singing a different story right now, but being kumbaya. But nonetheless, the PSA messages, the commercials, word of mouth, anything that is there to let people know when a storm is coming, you need to make the decision whether you're going to stay or go. And if you plan on staying, you need to ensure that you have all of the necessary preparatory items that you need to weather the storm with. At the end of the day, there is not much we can do. We have to take forecastings from the news medias and be able just to work with whatever storm decides to come and how it decides to come.
Okay. Okay. Oh, I've got another question.
Yes.
Okay, I got another question. Now you're in the Lucaya area, but is there any evacuation plans in place, particularly for those people that live further out east and over the bridge?
I would say there's always been a plan. We have always stressed it over the years, even though most people may not have heard it. Some were unaware of it, and there are others who heard it. But nonetheless, we'll always say for those low-lying areas, you have to do a home survey of where your property is, and know that if you are in the valley versus being on a ridge, your best bet is to evacuate before the storm comes and find other means in which you aren't going to hunker down during the storm with.
So, one more question.
Okay. We have to get on to Doc as well. So
being in the Lucaya area, if there is anything that I find that I have an issue with, whether I feel my neighbor has too much debris in their yard or anything like that, who should I call? Do I call the Lucaya Service Company?
You can call us definitely. You can call us at 350-9016, or you can go on our website at lasco.org and hit the complete task and just fill in the information, and we'll have one of our team members come out and visit and assess and get back to you as soon as possible.
It'll be anonymous, so if I report my husband, they won't know it's me.
Well, I can tell you, given the degree of your report, he might know it's you anyway, but nonetheless.
Okay, so persons who live in the Lucaya area, they would report you any concerns they have.
Yeah, any concerns, and even if it isn't our concern, we'll do our best to ensure that we give some kind of direction in which they need to, the right person, the right company, at the end of the day, ensuring that they get the service that they're looking for. You know, that's one of the biggest things, you know, your home, our service.
Okay.
I love it.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Mr. Cartwright, for your information, and we want to encourage you again. Please make sure that you're following the Lucaya Service Company Facebook pages, social media, and Mr. Cartwright also shared the contact number 3509016 if you have a matter that needs to be addressed or you need to contact someone to get some assistance. And so at this time, if we can come over to Dr. Stacy Bevins-Lang, Grand Bahama Health Services. Very, very critical during hurricane season, right?
Yes, it is.
And things always happen. So tell us a little bit about what's happening on the medical side and how are you guys preparing?
Okay, as it was implied earlier, the hurricanes are rather unpredictable. And the Grand Bahama Health Services, we have started our preparation for the hurricanes in relation to the facilities, getting supplies and all that is needed to assist our patients as they would present to the hospital. However, all of this can be for naught if the patients as well as the community at large doesn't assist us in this effort. So that is why I'm here to just, advise persons that they need to be medically prepared. And so I have just a few tips on how they can prepare.
Please share.
Okay, so that I don't miss anything, I'm just going to list them off for you guys.
That's great.
Now, we have to look at it in 3 stages: pre-hurricane preparation, during, and post. Now, with the pre-preparation, we must ensure that persons have all of the relevant medications. This is medications that by prescription. So persons with chronic illnesses, if you have to see your physician prior to, go right ahead. Get medications at least 2 to 3 weeks in advance, or at least that supply extra. Now, for persons in terms of over-the-counter medications, we can have persons having pain, they may have indigestion, so antacids, allergies, pain medications, these are all relevant, and utilize them accordingly. Now, we have, during this time, it's rather hot. So we have our elderly patients and our kids, they can become dehydrated. So in terms of water, please ensure that you have at least 1 to 2 gallons at least for drinking per day per person. Okay? Because during that time, it's extremely hot. Now, the first aid kits, those are very essential. Make sure you have all of the relevant stuff for any wounds that may occur. And for persons who wear something as simple as a hearing aid, we may forget these things. Have your extra batteries, you have your high blood pressure machine, your glucometers, the strips, all of those things, they are very relevant. And as for the medications that we use, ensure that if they need to be kept in the fridge, you have a backup plan. And this is one of the things that we run into a lot with persons, mainly our diabetics. They would keep it get hot, it spoil. And so then when you use it, it's not gonna work. And those persons now present with major complications of diabetes to the hospital. Okay, so we need persons to definitely make sure they pay attention to that. Also other stuff like gloves, face masks, those are important as well. Now, for our in terms of your medical documents, we saw that during Hurricane Dorian, that was so unpredictable, no one would have even guessed that the hospital would have gotten touched. Now, it's good for persons to know what their medical issues are. So we're asking persons, know your medical history, know the medications that you're on. If needs be, store them on your phone, in the clouds, wherever, for those digitally inclined persons.
I think the clouds are just the best. It's,
Definitely.
We know it's somewhere in there.
Yes.
Yeah. So we talked about the pre. What are some of the things that persons might need to do or prepare for during?
During, we just ask that persons stay indoors. Try and avoid all fallen debris. And definitely persons who have a chronic illness, for example, diabetes, monitor your sugars as you're supposed to. Take all your medications on time, all the time, regardless of what's happening, to the best of your ability, I should say. And definitely the food intake is going to change somewhat, but as much as possible, try and stick to the diet you're supposed to.
Right.
I know that's hard, but
very difficult for a lot of
difficult.
families because
Yes,
when you think about storm season, you want to take all of the meat out of the fridge. You want to cook everything.
Yes.
You don't want to waste anything.
As quickly as
and
possible.
So, yes,
Consume it all.
Yes.
Barbecue.
So it is very barbecue.
Like
It is
coming
very
by you.
important to be able
Yes,
to
it is.
stick to those diets.
And it may seem simple enough, but this has a major impact. For example, during Hurricane Dorian, I would have spent the time in 8 Mile Rock, and what did I do? I ate a lot of chips and all the sweets and the juices, and so we have to be mindful.
Right.
Try and stick to the plan as much as possible.
Okay, and what about after the storm now? Because this is where it becomes
Oh,
really
this is where it
critical.
really gets crazy.
Right.
After the storm, wait for the all clear. If you don't need to come out, stay indoors. That's our biggest problem. Stay indoors because the fallen debris, you have to avoid standing water because we have the mosquitoes coming out. So if you have containers outside that would have caught dirty water or standing water, make sure you empty those things in a timely manner. We have things like malaria, dengue, all those things we need to prevent. And next of all, once the all clear is given, if you have to go to see a medical professional, then you go at that time.
Okay.
All right? Now, one of our biggest problem that we would have had after Dorian was person presenting with mental issues. And when I say mental issues, stress. Stress, anxiety, depression. So I advise persons, all of my patients, to just read up on the signs and symptoms. Simple tidbit, change in your appetite, not wanting to participate in regular activities. With all the work that needs to be done, you find that you're not willing or you don't have that oomph to move and do what you need to do. So these are just small things. As it relates to stress, persons tend to want to sleep a lot, or they may become very fidgety, fatigued, aggressive in some cases, nitpicking at small unnecessary stuff. Physically, you can have upset stomach, headaches, heart palpitations. It is crazy.
Okay.
So we just need you to be mindful of also those signs and symptoms. And if you need help or assistance, then you can definitely come to the Grand Bahama Health Service or to the Resilience, Grand Bahama Resilience, and they will assist you in terms of counseling and stress management.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Bevins Lang. We really appreciate that information. Always very critical to hear from Grand Bahama Health Services so that persons can plan and prepare and know what they need to be able to do.
Yeah.
So that's good stuff. We really appreciate that. And Mr. Cartwright, thank you as well so much. Lucaya Service Company, we want to be able to ensure that we are following them on their social media so that they can get the latest updates during the storm season.
Yeah, it's just one thing I want to say. I just want to stress what Dr. Bevins said. It's very important for residents to listen for that all clear. Don't come out before, just to check on somebody. Give us that opportunity to do an assessment throughout the island. We had an incident after Dorian where a tree fell on somebody who was passing by, and had the team not be in that particular area, that person would have needed to go to the run. So we are asking residents, because it does not happen to you, that doesn't mean it won't happen.
Right.
So we will always preach safety at the end of the day.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, so we have so much more to come. We're just not done yet. We have the Bahamas Red Cross that's here with us. And of course, we're going to be talking with their disaster manager so that we could get more information on how we can get help if need be. So we will be right back in just a few moments. Stay tuned. We'll have more information from Bahamas Red Cross.
Our city by reporting non-emergency issues in their neighborhoods, all through the convenience of an easy-to-use and free mobile app. You can instantly report issues from within the GBPA areas, quickly map issues you see on the street, answer a few questions, provide detailed descriptions, photos, and videos right from your device. Whether it's your neighbor or the responsible department within GBPA, those who need to know will receive an instant alert of issues reported. You can also comment on issues, vote them up, and share issues on Facebook and other social media sites to get even more involved. You can report matters such as illegal dumping, unpermitted construction activity, damaged water meters, and a host of other issues that may affect your neighborhood and the city at large. We all want to make our city comfortable and issue-free, and now there's an app just for that. Keeping our city well managed and beautiful just got a little bit easier. All you have to do is see, click, and fix with Freeport Report. Download the Freeport Report app today. Available for free in Google Play and the Apple App Store.
Freeport, the reawakened, the reimagined, the rebirth, the Renaissance capital of the Bahamas. over $1.5 billion in investments. Marinas, cruise ports, downtown revitalization, residential developments. We're putting the city on the map. Want to know more? Just log on. Your future is only a click away.
Welcome back, and we are here on Focus Forward doing our Hurricane Preparedness show, and we're about to have a conversation with the Bahamas Red Cross, another critical organization that we need to be a part of the conversation today. And so I wish to welcome to the roundtable Ms. Stephanie Barr from the Bahamas Red Cross, who is the administrator, and also Mr. Hilton Cash. He's the disaster manager at Bahamas Red Cross. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having us. And good morning.
Good. So if we can get into the conversation really quickly, we've heard from so many other organizations and agencies, and everybody has their role to play. Can you tell us about the work that the Bahamas Red Cross is doing now, and if we have a storm, what could we expect from the Bahamas Red Cross?
Okay, so Bahamas Red Cross, we have our own disaster team. And we are attached to NEMA, and Mr. Cash and myself, we attend that meeting. We sit as assisting the social services in the whole scheme of things. And so we are there to assist them. We work the shelters. We make sure that we have personnel there because we have the first aid training to, go to all of the shelters. And so, so we are putting our team together now. Mr. Cash will speak further on that. But we are poised and ready to go should something comes our way this year.
I like what I hear. She's poised and ready to
Yeah,
go.
ready to go.
Mr. Cash, she's already put you on the spot, so I didn't even have you in the hot seat. I was going to pop over and ask you. I mean, so you're dealing with all the logistics with everything that's happening should a storm come in. Tell us, how does the Red Cross mobilize the volunteers and the resources to provide emergency shelter, food, and medical assistance during a storm?
Okay, so the Bahamas Red Cross acts as an auxiliary to the Bahamas government. So whenever there's a disaster, we mobilize our volunteers. Two areas we concentrate on. We concentrate firstly on shelter management, and we involve our shelter managers during a hurricane and in some cases after a hurricane. Prior to the hurricane season, we concentrate a lot on training. The training is important. So we train in areas of first aid because we want to ensure that all of our shelter managers are experienced in first aid. And we also train in areas like distributions. That's in case we need to involve ourselves with that after a hurricane.
Right.
We also train them in assessments, psychosocial. So there's a number of training that we concentrate on so that we can better serve the public and we can better support other government agencies as well.
Okay. So another question I want to ask you. So the Bahamian public is now aware that all of the volunteers that you have has gone through extensive training and in different areas. Now, what are some key elements of your hurricane preparedness plan for individuals and families in the Grand Bahama community?
Okay, some of the key things that we put particular emphasis on is families knowing where the nearest shelter is.
Okay.
It's important for them to know, you have an A and a B plan.
Right.
So let's say if your home, if you consider your home durable, you may decide to stay there, but you still should have a plan B in the event things change. So it's important for them to know where is the nearest shelter, and also the safest route to get to that shelter.
Okay. And when we're going to the shelter, is there a checklist or something that we need to have with us when we go to the shelters, or is the shelter going to provide everything for us?
Right. Thanks for asking that. Right. Right. It's important for persons entering the shelter to properly prepare themselves. Take the essential things: medications, prescription drugs. It's important that you take them, because once you enter a shelter, you may not have an opportunity to get a supply. Also, water is essential. Special food. It's a must that you take your special food with you, special diets. And any essential items that you may need
Personally,
as
as an individual inside there.
Yes.
So is this information on the Bahamas Red Cross website, or they can come into the office and the organization and get a pamphlet with this information? So, I mean, our time goes by so quickly on the show, we can't even get all the information out to them. So they can find this information. They can find it at the office?
Yeah, at the office. Yeah.
At the office.
Okay, and you guys are located?
Jobson Avenue, 91 Jobson. We're back home.
All right. Back home. Good. So persons can come there and get information. You had also mentioned that you guys are connected to NEMA as well.
Yes.
So being able to follow NEMA to get some of the information related to the work of the Red Cross and the things that they would be doing to support, residents and families and that sort of thing. Yes. Is there anything else you wish to add before we wrap up for the show? We know that you guys do a tremendous job. There are so many volunteers. Perhaps you might want to send a quick shout out to one or two persons that we normally help?
Yes, thank you for that, Glendia. I wanted to say thank you to all those persons who support us, our donors who really give to us the tremendous job that we're doing, trying to service the community. We have our Meals on Wheels, where we serve 40 persons every day, Monday to Friday, and we have another 25 that we do parcels at the end of the month. And so that takes a lot.
Yes.
And, we are a nonprofit organization, so we are eternally grateful to those donors who come and assist us. We're really, really, I say thank you to you, and thank you for your continued support to us.
Okay. And we want to encourage others, if you are interested in being able to support the Red Cross by way of becoming a donor, certainly reach out to Mrs. Barr and talk to her, talk to the team members, talk to Mr. Hilton, so that they can, see how they can get you in on that. I believe it's very important for us. We don't always think about Bahamas Red Cross until we actually need Bahamas Red Cross, right? But it's very important for the community to come together to support them otherwise. And so thank you guys so much for sharing this information with us.
Thank you all for
and
having
we
us.
appreciate you guys being here. And of course, Freeport, Grand Bahama, all residents, we are approaching the season, and it appears that everything that we're hearing is good information to help you be ready for the season. And so plan, prepare, start doing it, buying your canned goods, get a little extra every week or 2 weeks when you go to the food store, start to, see how you're going to save your water and all of the various pieces that you need, medications, plan for everybody in your family. It is very important that we do that. Preparation is key.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
So stay indoors, wait for the all clear, and use your Freeport Report app.
Yes.
I wrapped the show up in just three statements. That's it.
She wrapped it up. Thank you guys so much for being with us today, and we're very happy to have had all of our guests. Thank you guys for sharing the information, and over time we will continue to share it through our Facebook pages, the Grand Bahama Port Authority, Invest Grand Bahama, Grand Bahama Power Company, Grand Bahama Utility Company, the Bahamas Red Cross, Lucaya Service Company, and Grand Bahama Health Services, NEMA. Just make sure that you have an opportunity to get the information that you need. Alex, great show today.
Informative indeed.
Yes, and we want to thank you for inviting us into your offices, your businesses, and your homes. Grand Bahama's Best Talk Show is always here for you. And until next time, I'm Glendia Sweeting.
And I'm Alex Thompson.
Informing you on the positive things that happen when you focus forward.
You've been listening to Focus Forward, sponsored by Invest Grand Bahama. Like us on Facebook at Invest Grand Bahama Small Business Bureau to stay updated.
And drop a business card at the Grand Bahama Port Authority receptionist desk to have your business featured on our show. Tune in next Thursday,
Same time,
same place,
for Focus Forward.